Hello, amazing watercolor artists. Today I'm going to share with you how I am making like Disney cards for my upcoming Disney World trip. I'm so excited to share my creativity and my love of Disney with you guys. So hop along. It's going to be a fun ride and I cannot wait to share. And by the way, it doesn't mean much to you, but it means the world to me to subscribe to my channel if you love watercolor. And this is just a fun little card blog that I thought would be fun to share. Thanks so much for watching. All right, so I wanted to make some cards for family and friends that I'm going to go to Disney World with, and for the amazing cast members that are going to make my trip super magical. So that's what I'm doing. I am actually making a bunch. I'm stamping on mixed media watercolor paper, mixed media 98-pound watercolor paper. So it's a little bit lighter, but I'm only going to do a wash. I'm not doing I'm not doing a lot of layering. And those I just had, and I had a cute little Disney stamp that like worked perfectly for it. And so I thought I'll just stamp that with the purple ink that I already have and make some cute little Disney cards. So that's what I did. And you'll see me kind of messing around with the composition and the placement of the stamps and how I want them to be. It's just amazing how like when creativity happens, it just goes. So I finally have it right, and I thought that's exactly where I want it. So I'm going to stamp, and then I have these simple little cards to send out to birthdays and for cast members when I am grateful for their hard work. And you'll see that I'm using the same purple that I used on the stencil thing, and then I'm off to stamping some more on that mixed media watercolor paper. This time it's Bambi. I have a bunch of Bambi stamps, and they make for some really cute cards. That is mostly for like babies or mothers, but I also do a bunch of other ones. I did Bambi single, just for like a nature sort of vibe, and those will get colored as well. These are all on mixed media watercolor paper, and so I use watercolor markers or a simple wash for these, and they're so much fun to paint. So this is also Bambi and his friends, Thumper and Stinker. So fun. And so I'll stamp again. Once I have the stamps on, I really like to continue stamping. Like, I do all that work, I might as well get like 6 panels per stamp. So I'm stamping a lot. But it's really fun, and it goes fast, and then I'll have a bunch of panels to eventually color. And since I have the Winnie the Pooh stamps out, I thought, we'll just start, stamping Winnie the Pooh, and it reminds me of the Winnie the Pooh ride, the mini adventures of Winnie the Pooh at Magic Kingdom, and it's just so fun. So anyways, now that my stamping is complete, like I said, I'm just going to do a wash, and this is Lavender by Daniel Smith. I'm using what I call my best friend watercolor palette, because it really is like a best friend. I know those colors, I know how to use them. I can basically just paint with them and not have a guesswork, because I've had this palette for years, and they're just my favorite. And this one in particular has lavender in the pigment. Now that is quinacrid and gold, and I really wanted some beautiful yellows in the buttercream, and you'll see that in just a second. And I did go over the hearts, because the red that I use is actually very opaque, and you'll see that I'm just giving that whole cake more of a chocolatey look to it. And you'll then see me add the layers. Mickey, his body is black, so I have to be very careful with my tonal value here. So I'm starting pretty gray, and I'll work into the darks. But again, this is just a wash, and it's really just a cute little birthday card, and I wanted it to look like a nice little birthday card, but without spending hours at a time on it. I do let certain spots dry And so now that the cake is dry, I can go back in and add glazing to the cake, which is what you're seeing me do here. And then I'm going to add some of that beautiful like red. This is like a cadmium red. It's just a beautiful opaque. And then since I already have that red on my brush, I'm just going to go ahead and use his little britches and clean up a little bit on the hearts. And then I will go into his shoes. And that's about it. And I stamped about 6 of them, so I got 6 more to do. And it makes for a really fun card. I got this stamp from Unity Stamps. I can't remember if it was called like Mouse Fun or Mouse Birthday, but that's from Unity Stamps. And I love Unity Stamps. They have amazing stamps. And perfectly and indicative to Disney. And so I'm adding a little bit extra darker black. It's actually not black, it's neutral tint, but I use it as a darker value to make it look like it's black. Now, Steamboat Willie was really fun. This is actually my 3rd time trying to get it right. I couldn't get my browns and my darks to look the way I wanted. So I'm starting with like a yellow, with a quinacridone yellow mix and like a neutral tint. And now I'm adding lavender to the very top. And you actually don't even notice the lavender on the card when I actually put it together. But the lavender really just pulls it together. And there has to be something up there. And so lavender was my go-to for that. And there's that neutral tint mix. You can see the Quin Gold in that mix. And now this is straight, pretty much Quin Gold with a little bit of neutral tint. You'll see that there. And I'm coloring the whole thing because I know that the Mickey's body will be pretty much a neutral tint. And I'm just getting my midtones in, and I'll go in with darks and just a little bit. But I really wanted the wheel to be pretty gold. Again, this is like my 3rd or 4th time trying to figure out how I wanted to paint Mickey, Steamboat Mickey. At first I wanted it to be just black and white, you know, very indicative to when he started. But he needed color, and I'm glad that I did color. The black and white did not work well. So I am using just straight neutral tint. The blue is indigo on his hat. And then I gotta let it dry. Once it's dry a little bit more, I come back and I add another layer of that beautiful cut red and that beautiful Quin Gold. And because it matches the background, it looks like it's part of the scene. It doesn't look out of it. And so that was my hope. Now, while Mickey is gonna dry, I'm just painting inside the wheel to give it some depth. And then I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna add that darker brown. And I decided to leave his face white, and it worked out. And you'll see in there. Okay, so this one is Bambi, and I wanted a very green background. And I really just wanted Bambi to stand out with a little bit of brown, and that's what I'm getting. And you'll see that I'm just negative painting the whole background and getting that really beautiful wash. The watercolor really painted itself in the background. I didn't have to do much. I just needed a wet until wet technique, and I got that background in pretty good shape. And then I'll go back in with another layer, do the same thing, and then you get that beautiful background. All right, now while that background's doing its thing, I am going to play with my watercolor. And this is a fun this is just fun. I'm just adding that beautiful yellow ochre, or not, sorry, yellow ochre, yellow quinacridone yellow, and a little bit of that burnt sienna, and I'm just playing around with my colors. The idea here is that it's going to dry lighter, and I can stencil on top of it. And you'll notice that I'm going to dab out a little bit with just the paper towel, or the towel that's underneath. I do the same thing with the green. I wanted more of a Christmassy look, and so I believe this is Viridian green, and I just am putting some paint on the paper. That's really all I'm doing. And then I'm also giving it some texture. This is just watercolor paper at 140 pound. I didn't want it to be a little bit thicker because I am using stenciling and I'm using mixed media. I will, once that's dry, I actually go in with a stencil and I use ink to go with it. I also really enjoy having a clean palette, so you'll notice my palette being clean often because I really like to have that vibrancy in color. And I decided that I needed a little bit more turquoise with the green, so I believe that I used a sap green and turquoise, and that's where you're getting that blue viridian-ish, greenish color. I don't use viridian too much. All right, next one. I'm going to actually use Brusho, and I really wanted some beautiful pink to start with, but then you'll see in just a second that I'm going to sprinkle some Brusho. Right there is Brusho, and what it does is it just kind of bursts into beautiful color, and you get this beautiful texture that you can't control, and it's quite lovely. And then that will just dry. I don't want to do a whole lot to it. I do dab off the Brusho a little bit because it is very, very pink. All right, next I'm going to do just Brusho, and this is green moss. Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite greens ever. I use it all the time when I need a green. I'm usually a very natural girly, so I love like the muted greens, and this moss green has a bit of purple in it, and I love purple. So purple and green to me is like the best. So I'm just playing around to seeing like where I want my stencil and where I wanted my colors to go. And so that's what you saw me doing there. I do cut my paper, my watercolor paper, at an A2 size card, so then I just have a bunch to just paint and have fun. And this really was a fun afternoon to just paint and just enjoy the process. And so that's what you see me here. I'm adding a wet into wet wash with, I believe, that Quin Gold and the green that was left over on my palette before. This one is again wet into wet, and I'm just adding some purple. This is lavender and dioxide purple together, and then I'm just going to add extra water to just kind of like move it around the paper. And as soon as I feel like I have the look that I'm looking for, I'm going to call it. All right, now that it's dried, I can use my awesome Mickey stencils and decide where I want it to go. And basically the idea here is you want to match the colors that are on the paper. So I have that beautiful orange, and the orange will look beautiful with that, and then I'll have a strip of a little bit red going in. This is mulled wine from Tailored Expressions, but just a bit of the red to really make good things happen on the page. You might be wondering where I got these awesome Mickey stencils, and I actually did get them at Disney World. They were in the Grand Floridian gift shop. I was totally blown away that they had Mickey stencils there, and so I had to get them. All right, this time I'm actually going to double tape, like just put some tape on the back, so I want a full blending stenciling, so I had to tape it to my mat, even though I wanted it to bleed out. So what I'm doing is I realized like I needed more pink, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to put more pink on, but I do that after the fact. After the fact it looks better. I love my magnetic board because I can just stencil and move my magnets around wherever. That purple dioxazine and lavender, I love that two color combinations, and I just use dry fig. I think this works. On video it looks a little bit darker than it really is in real life. This is going to be a like for Christmas, or for like a Christmas-y-ish, Thanksgiving-y-ish color, like indicative to that. Anyways, I wanted to do the mini stenciling again, and I'm just using Gumdrop, which is a very Kelly green color, but it works for this. I wouldn't normally use this Gumdrop color, but I thought it would work for this. And so I'm just stenciling it. This is sped up quite a bit, but look at that result. It's just gorgeous. And I realized, oh, I need a little bit more up here where it's darker. And so I can always go back and get it a little bit darker, but it will look beautiful when it's done. And then I clean off my stencils because, you know, I don't want green on my next project. Next up, I will be doing some stencil, like, I guess borders is maybe what I would call it. And I am just holding those stencils in with those magnets, and I'm going to use a beautiful sweet basil green. It's a very natural green, and that texture will still shine through, but you'll get this beautiful look that I think will be perfect for a card. And it really did turn out lovely. There we go, perfect, done. And so watercolor cards don't have to be terribly hard to do, and because I'm going to use the same green, I'm just going to do it again. So I do try, my workflow is I can get 2 or 3 pinks, 2 and 3 yellows, 2 or 3 greens, and then I don't have to change out all the colors all the time. And this sweet basil was very, very poignant. So what you didn't see is I did go back and I made those Mickey mini stencils a little bit darker, and now I'm just stamping with black Oreo ink on my Misty, and it's just saying, it just says hello beautiful, and I do it 3 times, but then that works really, really well. And I will do the same thing with that green again. Work smarter, not harder. And that works beautifully. Again, you have to have 3 passes because the watercolor paper is so thick and it has a lot of tooth to it. This stamp is actually a Walt Disney quote from Disney. All your dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them. It's by Tailored Expressions as well. I love this stamp set. I don't believe that Tailored Expressions is selling this stamp set anymore, which is a big bummer, but I absolutely love the outcome from that stamp with that stencil. And I had to move that up just a tad bit, and just to get a little bit better composition. Once I found my right spot, then I went and used that same ink that I stenciled with, and I stamped it. And I do the same thing with this. I use the same ink that I stenciled with that I use to stamp with. A pro tip is to always clean your stamp off so you don't get a mud. And so there you go, there's my beautiful purple one. This one I really wanted to do a yellow, very indicative to like Thanksgiving, and again I'm cleaning that stamp off, making sure yellow can get muddied really fast, and so can red. And I just did mulled wine on that one, but look at how perfect that is. I just love it. I'm so grateful I found these stencils because I can do so many fun things with it. Now I'm cleaning off my stamp by using the paper. You can also use a wet washcloth. Anyways, pro tip here is always put your stamps back on your carrier sheet so you don't lose the stamp. Trust me, you don't want to lose a stamp. One of your favorite stamps is, and I use this stamp all the time. As I'm cleaning up, I'm also thinking about how I want to finish my cards, and so I decided that I needed one more card in all the things that I stamped and colored. This one became one of my new favorites. I love all of Bambi's friends, and this is using Karin Markers. I have some videos on how to use these these watercolor brush pen markers. They're made with ink, but it's so fun, and I had a lot of fun coloring these. Alright, as I was finishing up coloring, I decided to use some simple strips by Tailored Expressions, and I'm just going to glue those strips onto the paper. Basically, Taylor Expressions came out with a way to get some sentiments on these little strips of paper, and all you do is stamp and die cut, and then you have a whole bunch of little strips that have sentiments on them. And this is just my process. There's no right or wrong way. I like to use tape runners. I think it works really well. And then I always mat my watercolor to some patterned paper. It is acid free, and I like using acid free tape runner. You don't have to, but I thought, why not? And I will be using these cards to send to family and friends, especially the Disney cast members at Disney World as well. So I got like 20 cards in a couple afternoons, which I thought was really well worth it. Now I'm putting these on. As we are nearing the end of the video, I just want to ask you to subscribe to my channel if you found this content at all helpful. Here are the finished cards. Look at that Hello Beautiful from Minnie. I just love it. It's going to be so perfect. I'm going to send these to cast members that we go to table service. So we have a couple table service restaurants, Ohana's and Garden Grill, and then other cast members that I thought made a difference, like we're staying at Boardwalk, so I'll probably send a card to Boardwalk, and then a friend and a mom. And it's just going to be so much fun to send out these like handmade cards to cast members and friends that I'm going with. It's going to be so much fun. Anyways, I am so grateful that you are here and that you are sharing my joy with me. It's so much fun. Here's Pooh Bear. I really love how that one turned out. This one probably will go to resort cast members. And birthdays, we're celebrating a couple birthdays, and so I thought I would send them some magic that way. Anyways, happy creating, you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Happy